Avatar, The Last Airbender, and The Legend of Korra. I noticed that a lot of fans of the Avatar franchise, weird calling it a franchise now because I remember a time when it was just a TV show. But that's besides the point. So this video is about the Avatar franchise, and apparently a lot of fans like Korra more than Last Airbender. And to me, that's insane. Just insane because obviously one show is superior to the other. And I don't care what anybody says, but Avatar is superior to Korra. Like, I don't understand how anybody could think Korra is better. I think those people are insane and they need help. They really need help. That's not to say that I don't need help, but people who choose Korra over Avatar definitely need. I couldn't see myself with the option to watch both and choosing Korra. Like, why would you want to watch Korra? People who say it's better, like, do you really believe it's better? That's insane. If you do believe it's better, like, leave in the comments why you think it's better, but I just think that's crazy. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm obviously, an Avatar fan. I prefer that show. You could say I'm like a Gen 1er. I remember when, that was a really big topic on YouTube, being a Gen 1er. If anybody who doesn't know what Gen 1er is, there's this thing called a Gen 1er where if you're a fan of Pokemon, everybody loves the first generation that came out. And they pretty much hate on any other generation after that. So I could see Avatar becoming that, like a whole community of just a bunch of Avatar spin-off things, and then everyone just likes Avatar: The Last Airbender. And anything after that is just it's a wrap. So that's what it seems like the franchise is going to become. I don't know. What do you guys think? They're working on other projects as we speak. They have the live action franchise that's about to come out soon, and that's just pretty much the same thing, but they're going to make their own spin on it. And who knows what they're going to do with it? Like it might go into some really weird territory. It might go into some really woke territory because they're already adding a new character, but with every reboot, they're going to add new characters no matter what. So that's not a telltale sign that there's going to be wokeness or whatever, but I just hope it's good. I just hope it's a good show. It doesn't even have to be as good as the original. It's just something that would be worth watching. Like, it can't be a bad show because then it's going to taint the franchise even more. They made a bad movie. They took a great franchise and made a bad movie. So now, if they make more movies, no one's going to want to watch the movie. So if they mess this up, then no one's ever going to watch Avatar. Like, the franchise is going to be dead for a little bit longer. Then they're going to try again. But yeah. So let's get into the main point of this video. Korra is not superior to Avatar, and I don't understand why anyone would think Korra is anywhere near the level. Like, Avatar had a solid story, for one. That's gotta be its biggest leg up on Korra. Like, Korra did not have a solid story. It was just nonsense, really. Even people say like, "Oh, the first season was a pretty good season," and then they didn't know whether or not the story was going to continue, so they had to pretty much wrap it all up. It was going to be a mini series. That's what everyone's excuse for The Legend of Korra is. But guess what? The first season may have not been like garbage or anything, but it wasn't nothing that special. Like, the first season wasn't anything special. It was just it was mid. The first season was mid. I don't know why people hype up the first season so much. There was cool moments and cool scenes, but literally everything ever made has cool moments and cool scenes. That you're gonna find something good about any franchise or movie or TV show, whatever. And I'm not saying that the first season was bad, but it had some pretty bad moments in it. There's pretty big plot holes. It's just And then after the first season was made, they kind of act like that never happened. They bring it up in later seasons, but like there's no consequences of it. It's a thing that happened and then we just forgot about it or we ignored it. Like they don't it doesn't affect the rest of the story. All that stuff happened, but like what effect does it really have on the story? Like they never I don't think yeah. So in the first season of Korra, the villain was a bloodbender. And like in the past they even have like a flashback saying bloodbending was a big crime in the show. And like if you're a bloodbender, that's bad and all that. And then no one ever bloodbends ever again. They have three more seasons and bloodbending is never mentioned again. It doesn't happen again. Nothing. Like the criminal families in the show don't bloodbend. Like there's no you would think that they would have like I don't know, season two, maybe there's bloodbenders. They go to the water tribe, more waterbenders. There's no bloodbenders there. There's no bloodbenders in the North Pole, the South Pole. They don't have any more bloodbenders doing anything in Republic City. Like it's nothing. Like and they have like like a plot line where Mako is a cop in season two. He don't run into any bloodbenders. And no other there's no bloodbenders in the Earth Kingdom because there's waterbenders that live there. Like if you go all the way to season four, like they show that there's firebenders and waterbenders that live in the Earth Kingdom. And like none of them are bloodbenders. Like this shit never even comes back into play. So yeah, and I mean that's no reason to say the show's terrible, but like it's just stuff doesn't get built up upon and nothing. Like people always hyping up Korra, like, oh, it's so great. But I'm like, no, it's really not. It's really not. It's not even good enough for it to be, hyped up like as much as it is. I mean, then airbending, like everything is just all the stuff that they did in Avatar Last Airbender. They just shat on it. Like they just took a big shit on it. Like airbending is just nothing. Like it's not special or anything. Like none of the bending is really like they don't really do anything with their bending like that. Like only the villains are the only ones who really did anything. Like Korra, she uses her bending, but it's like it's not special. Like she even says like being a bender is special, but like we don't get it doesn't feel like it is. She just feels like a big bully who just throws elements at you, and then like that's it. She's not very meaningful. She doesn't have very meaningful relationships or anything. She's just this big asshole. Cora's pretty much just a big asshole. She's like, I feel like if she wasn't a bender or anything, she wouldn't have any friends. This chick wouldn't have any fucking friend. Like none of these people would be friends with her if she wasn't the Avatar. No one would be her friend. I don't think her parents wouldn't even want to be her fucking friend. If she was just a regular person, either she wouldn't have friends or her attitude would not be like this at all. Like she would not be fucking doing all this bullshit all the time. I mean, come on, man. Just just a very very terrible person. She's really a terrible person. And the fans, the writers of the show, they all act like Korra is just this perfect, not perfect, but she's like, oh no, she's just a lovable rascal. Like she just made mistakes. There's a type of like she just making mistakes feel to it. But like she's objectively a bad person. Like she's annoying, she's a bully, she just does a bunch of things that are bad. And like we pretend like she doesn't. I mean, when people call her out, there's people that call her out. Like Lynn, Lynn calls her out. She's one of the few characters who calls her out. And like the show doesn't like bully Lynn because you can't bully Lynn. She's a tough character. But then like Tenzin, right? He'll call her out, and then he apologizes to her. Like he acts like he's in the wrong or something. Like he's not. But then Tenzin has his own problems too. Like he acted like a child in season three. Season three, this man, he was a grown man and he was like, oh, I can go into the spirit world. But he really couldn't. He never been to the spirit world. None of this shit. Like, he's a grown man. Like, what's wrong with you? Wasting time. And then his daughter, like, it's weird how they made the daughter like so superior to him and stuff. I don't know. It's just strange. But I mean, that's not necessarily a problem because sometimes kids pass up their parents on stuff. Like, they're just, I mean, sometimes your parents are just not good at something and you are. But like, they just made Tenzin like weird. It's just weird how they treated him. And then the whole Aang is a bad dad. I mean, not the worst sin of the show, but like, you you couldn't made a more interesting story than let's make the beloved character actually be a bad parent. Like, they didn't make anything interesting with it. They just was like, okay, what should we do to make this season interesting? I mean, all these people, like the siblings of Tenzin, don't do anything interesting, and they were never interesting. They didn't do anything, one interesting thing, except for Boomy. Boomy did something interesting. He was funny, and then he became an airbender. But I mean, like, Kai was a waterbender, and like, she was never interesting. Like, she was never an interesting character at all. And then, like, yeah, I lost track. I just lost track of my thought. But yeah, Kaya was never an interesting character at all in the show. I don't even think, like, they named her after Katara's mom, and they really did the legacy dirty. Like, cause she was named after her, but she did not live up to the name. Like, even the mom was more interesting. Katara and Sokka's mom was more interesting than Kaya from the show, like the daughter, because the mom actually had like something happen, like something like the short amount of time that we even saw her, and she only had like a couple of sentences. All we saw was the flashback of her, and that was a more interesting story than everything that happened to Kaya in the Legend of Korra. Everything that happened in the Legend of Korra with Kaya was fucking boring. And like, the most interesting thing she did was lose a fight to Zahir. That's pretty much it. And then I don't know. It's so many issues. But when you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, even characters that aren't supposed to be that interesting are actually pretty interesting. I mean, everybody got their due. Like, in Avatar, we had all these side characters, characters that shouldn't have mattered as much as they did in the show. Like with Azula, she got her two friends to help her out, May and Ty Lee. May and Ty Lee both had interesting stories, and they were just minions, really. I mean, May was more interesting than Ty Lee, maybe, because May is Zuko's boyfriend. I mean, girlfriend. May is Zuko's girlfriend, and they're together, and they have that little romance. And she's like, she's an interesting character. And then Ty Lee, I must say both of them are very interesting characters. Ty Lee is always a happy, positive person. May is more like, I wouldn't say she's depressed, but like, she represses her feelings. But like, they got way more interesting arcs and stuff. Like, they actually got arcs. What the fuck? What is Kaya's arc? I mean, she says she's upset with her father, but is she really? Like, she doesn't seem like it. I don't know. And she's like a hippie, I guess. She goes out. She's just she's like one of those hippies from Avatar: Last Airbender, like the hippie that helped them through the cave, through the tunnels. But she doesn't really get that much, so she's kind of a boring character. And then there's so many more interesting characters. Even Combustion Man is more interesting than Kaya. Not gonna lie. I mean, just so many reasons why. Just they just thought about everything. I feel like in the original show they thought about the characters. Like, who is Kaya really? She says that they say she's free spirited, and that's it. She's just some free spirited chick we know nothing about. Tenzin, he's supposed to be free spirited actually, ironically, but he's not because he had a bunch of responsibility, which we kind of get that. We get to know Tenzin, but we knew him. We knew him. Like, he was kind of a main character. Kaya is not necessarily a main character. She's more like a side character who's kind of pointless. But and then Katara, Katara, man, she gets nothing in Legend of Korra. Which I mean, she's not. She's the old generation, so she shouldn't. But yeah, I mean, whatever.